The Nile River is more than just a body of water, a geographical feature etched into the landscape. It's the very lifeblood of northeastern Africa, a shimmering artery sustaining millions, and the undisputed cradle of one of the world's most ancient and influential civilizations. Its story is intertwined with human history itself. For millennia, its predictable, life-giving floods transformed the harsh desert into fertile, arable land, a green ribbon snaking through the otherwise barren landscape. This annual inundation was the foundation of agricultural prosperity. This agricultural abundance, in turn, enabled powerful empires to flourish, leaving behind a legacy of monumental architecture and sophisticated culture that continues to inspire awe today. Stretching over an astonishing 6,600 kilometers, making it one of the longest rivers on Earth, the Nile's vastness is sustained by two main tributaries, each with its own unique character and contribution. The White Nile, originating from the vast Lake Victoria in Central Africa, and the Blue Nile, surging down from the Ethiopian highlands, carrying with it fertile silt and the promise of renewal, finally merging in the Sudanese capital of Khartoum, a dramatic confluence of waters that marks the true beginning of the Nile's journey north. The river's epic journey links 11 diverse countries, a testament to its regional significance and the shared dependence on its precious waters. It traverses dramatically contrasting landscapes, from the lush green highlands of its sources to the arid sun-baked deserts of northern Sudan and Egypt. The Nile has silently witnessed the rise and fall of powerful pharaohs, their reigns inextricably linked to the river's bounty. It has seen the ambitious building of the pyramids, testaments to human ingenuity and the power of centralized authority, and the gradual birth of modern nations, each grappling with the challenges and opportunities presented by this shared lifeline. Its waters have consistently sustained agriculture for millennia, providing the means for communities to thrive and grow. It has reliably provided drinking water, a fundamental necessity for human survival, shaping settlement patterns and dictating the rhythm of daily life. And it has served as a profound spiritual symbol, a source of both life and mystery, woven into the religious beliefs and cultural practices of the people who depend on it. Today, the Nile's importance is more complex and multifaceted than ever before, a critical resource facing unprecedented pressures. Rapidly growing populations and the advent of new, often water-intensive technologies are dramatically increasing demands on its finite flow, creating new challenges for equitable distribution. Modern nations now possess the technological capacity to fundamentally alter the river's course and flow, in ways that would have been utterly unimaginable to their ancestors, wielding a power that carries immense responsibility. This newfound ability is raising the stakes for both cooperation and potential conflict, as nations navigate competing needs and aspirations. The current, highly sensitive dispute between Egypt and Ethiopia over water rights is just the latest chapter in the Nile's long and complex story, a high-stakes struggle over control of a vital resource, the survival of communities, and the very definition of national identity in a rapidly changing world. Ultimately, the river remains a shared resource, a common heritage that demands careful stewardship and equitable distribution. This makes international collaboration absolutely essential for ensuring long-term regional stability and preventing future conflicts. A comprehensive understanding of this deep and multifaceted connection is absolutely key to grasping the intense passions, the legitimate anxieties, and the complex geopolitical dynamics that surround the Nile today. For Egypt, the Nile isn't just a river, it's everything, the lifeblood of the nation. It's the reason Egypt exists as we know it. An astounding over 95% of its 110 million people are clustered along its banks and within the fertile delta region. This makes it one of the most densely populated areas on Earth, all thanks to the Nile. This remarkably narrow green strip, accounting for less than 5% of Egypt's total landmass, stands in stark contrast to the surrounding desert. It is the vibrant heart of its agriculture, supporting the vast majority of its crops, and the foundation upon which its major cities have been built. Without the consistent flow and life-giving waters of the Nile, Egypt would simply be an uninhabitable desert, unable to sustain its current population or economy. The river provides nearly all of Egypt's fresh water, essential not only for drinking but also for industry and sanitation. It has shaped its society, its culture, and its very psyche for thousands of years, becoming deeply intertwined with Egyptian identity. Therefore, water security is not just a policy objective, it's a fundamental matter of national survival, impacting every facet of Egyptian life. it's a non-negotiable imperative. Consequently, Egypt's leaders have historically viewed any upstream development along the Nile with profound concern and a high degree of scrutiny. They have consistently relied on historical treaties and established water rights to safeguard their share of the river's precious resources. The Aswan High Dam, a monumental engineering feat completed in the 1960s, effectively ended the era of unpredictable and often devastating annual flooding. However, it also inadvertently made Egypt even more critically dependent on a guaranteed and steady flow of water from the Nile. Therefore, any significant reduction in the volume of Nile water poses a direct and immediate threat to Egypt's agricultural output, its hydroelectric power generation capabilities, and the availability of clean drinking water for its massive population, ultimately making any compromise on water allocation feel like an existential risk to the very survival and stability of the nation. This deep-seated vulnerability and historical context are what explain Egypt's often perceived inflexible stance on Nile water negotiations. Because for them, the Nile and its life-giving waters are simply not negotiable under any circumstances. While Egypt is the gift of the Nile, Ethiopia is its source. Over 85% of the Nile's water comes from the Blue Nile, rising in Ethiopia's highlands. For centuries, Ethiopia watched this resource flow away while its people faced poverty and energy shortages. Ethiopia believes it has a right to use the water within its borders to fuel development and lift its 120 million citizens out of poverty. Unlike Egypt, Ethiopia sees the Nile as a source of hydroelectric power, not just irrigation. Historical treaties favoring Egypt are seen by Ethiopia as colonial relics that denied its rights. Ethiopia's vision is to harness the river for electricity, become a regional energy exporter, and claim its place as a rising African power. For Ethiopians, using the Nile is about justice, sovereignty, and a long overdue step toward prosperity. The river is their key to a brighter future. The Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, often referred to as GERD, stands as a monumental feat of engineering. It is the centerpiece of Ethiopia's ambitious development plans, a testament to their aspirations for growth and modernization. But it's also at the heart of a complex and ongoing conflict, a source of tension that ripples across the region. Strategically built on the Blue Nile, close to Sudan's border, GERD isn't just any dam, it's Africa's largest hydroelectric project, a symbol of what the continent can achieve. It boasts a staggering power generation capacity of over 6,000 megawatts, promising to transform Ethiopia's energy landscape. The dam features a massive reservoir, and when it's completely full, it will hold an amount of water that's nearly equivalent to the entire annual flow of the Blue Nile as it crosses into Sudan. This is a volume of water that has significant implications for all countries that depend on the river. Therefore, the speed at which the dam is filled is of critical importance. If filled too rapidly, downstream nations such as Egypt and Sudan could potentially face severe and devastating water shortages, impacting agriculture, industry, and daily life. For the people of Ethiopia, GERD represents a powerful symbol of national renewal, a source of immense pride and a unifying force. It holds the promise of widespread electricity access, the creation of numerous jobs, and a significant boost to the nation's economic transformation. The construction of this massive dam has fundamentally altered the power dynamics of the entire region, marking a historic turning point as the first instance of an upstream nation undertaking such a large-scale project without first securing the explicit agreement of Egypt. GERD is no longer just a plan on paper, it's a tangible reality, a massive concrete structure reshaping the landscape. This new reality is forcing all involved parties into difficult and tense negotiations as they grapple with the future of the river and its resources. The stakes in these negotiations are incredibly high as the dam embodies both immense hope and opportunity for Ethiopia, and considerable anxiety and concern for Egypt, a nation that heavily relies on the Nile's waters. The Nile River Basin has undeniably entered a new and uncertain chapter in its history. Egypt's fears about GERD are existential. Its entire water supply, agriculture, and electricity depend on the Nile. A rapid filling of GERD's reservoir could drastically lower Lake Nasser, threatening crops, food security, and millions of livelihoods. Reduced water flow also means less electricity from the Aswan High Dam and poorer water quality. Egypt insists on a legally binding agreement to guarantee minimum water releases, especially during droughts. Without such a deal, Egypt feels vulnerable to decisions made in Addis Ababa, fearing catastrophic shortages. The GERD shifts control upstream for the first time, challenging Egypt's historical dominance and sense of security. For Egypt, this is not just about water, it's about sovereignty and survival. Their tough negotiating stance reflects these deep-seated anxieties. Ethiopia sees GERD not as a threat but as a lifeline. Its main goal is to generate electricity for millions living without power. Hydroelectricity is Ethiopia's path to modernizing its economy, improving education, healthcare, and creating jobs. Ethiopian leaders stress that GERD is a hydroelectric dam, not an irrigation project. The water continues downstream after generating power. They argue the dam could even benefit Egypt and Sudan by regulating river flow and reducing floods. For Ethiopia, GERD is about sovereignty, progress, and ending decades of perceived injustice under colonial-era agreements. The dam is a source of national pride and unity, symbolizing self-determination. Ethiopia also plans to export surplus electricity, transforming itself into a regional energy hub. In their view, GERD is a catalyst for cooperation and shared prosperity, not conflict. For over a decade, Egypt, Ethiopia, and Sudan have negotiated without success over GERD's filling and operation. Egypt and Sudan demand a binding treaty with clear rules and dispute mechanisms. Ethiopia prefers flexible guidelines, wary of limits on its sovereignty. This legal divide, binding treaty versus flexible rules, remains the main obstacle. The deadlock has fueled mistrust and heated rhetoric, with each side accusing the other of bad faith. Egypt warns all options are on the table. Ethiopia vows to proceed regardless. The African Union continues to mediate, but a breakthrough remains elusive. The future of the Nile hangs in the balance. Resolving the Nile dispute requires moving from confrontation to cooperation. One path forward is technical collaboration. Real-time data sharing on rainfall, reservoir levels, and dam operations could build trust. Broader negotiations could focus on benefit sharing. Egypt and Sudan investing in Ethiopian energy in exchange for water guarantees. International river treaties offer models for equitable use and dispute resolution. All sides would need to compromise. Egypt easing on historical rights, Ethiopia accepting some binding commitments during droughts. The most durable solution will recognize the core needs of all: Egypt's water security and Ethiopia's development. A flexible, adaptive treaty could set drought rules while allowing Ethiopia operational freedom in normal years. The path is difficult, but the alternative, escalating conflict, is far more dangerous. The Nile's future depends on visionary leadership and shared management. The Egypt-Ethiopia-Nile conflict is a story of history, geography, and ambition, without simple heroes or villains. Egypt's survival has always depended on the Nile. Any disruption feels like an existential threat. Ethiopia, the river's source, seeks justice and a future powered by its own resources. GERD is both a marvel of engineering and a symbol of this fundamental disagreement. The dispute is about water security for Egypt and energy sovereignty for Ethiopia. Failure to find a solution keeps the region on edge, with the risk of escalation ever present. The destinies of all Nile Basin nations are bound together by the river that divides them. The challenge now: ensure the Nile remains a source of life and cooperation for generations to come.